Marshall Peak, Chapter 8, A Beautiful Thin Waist. Half an hour after he broke through, the results of quenching body records were evident. Although his knowledge contributed, if not for that technique, he believed he needed another 3-4 months before advancing. With this, he breathed in deeply and exhaled out the impurities in his body. From within his mouth, out came a pitch-black smoke, filthy as it tumbled to the ground. After expectorating this smoke out, his 6 senses became more acute and sharpened. Was this his body's impurity? Xianxia shook on the spot. With the practice of cultivation, you will reduce and drain the body of impurities each time.
Xianxia previously had experienced this, but never at this level. Numerous ideas and joy lingered in his mind.
Although he had successfully entered the 4th layer, he had yet to progress in the tempered body record's first technique. His daily practice could only produce 1% of the total result out of the 101 punches. Hasty men don't eat hot tofu, and with an impulsive heart you won't be able to feel a hot butt. Thinking for a while, Xianxia planned a bit about his future. Even though it wasn't thorough, he could no longer be like how he had been, taking each step as it came. After a while, you couldn't help but become impatient.
Then after eating something, he continued to sweep the area. Although he was a sweeper, it didn't mean he needed to sweep the entire school.
He was only responsible for 1/10 of the school.
Even though it was cumbersome, it would only take an hour or so. Within the trees, Xianxia had started to monitor the disciples and inadvertently saw Xianxia sweeping away.
To not have some emotions would be weird.
Today, there was something different about him, but she wasn't sure. He hadn't left that spot for over half an hour, sweeping it until it was shiny and spotless. It was so slick that if a mosquito were to go on, it would have a sprained ankle.
This guy.
Xianxia didn't know what to do with him. At that moment, Xianxia was thinking about other things.
Yesterday he obtained a vast opportunity, so naturally, he was considering his future, but no real options were found.
He could only continue to practice at sunrise every day, for now. While he was pondering, rapid footsteps approached quickly from behind.
He promptly went to dodge, but didn't realize that the other party was making preparations to avoid him too. So they crashed into each other.
Though he didn't sustain any significant injuries, it felt like he had crashed into a steel wall when he crashed into that person. With a cry, he fell to the ground, and the place he bumped felt numb. Xianxia quickly recovered and apologetically asked,
"This fellow disciple, are you okay?"
The young man was annoyed, and when he looked up to see that it was Xianxia, that explosive anger dissipated.
Holding anger for such a person had no meaning. It was also his fault.
Replying while waving his hands,
"It's all right, it's all right." While saying this and getting up, he then energetically ran away.
Xianxia asked,
"Fellow disciple, where will you hurriedly go?"
The young man faintly shouted,
"The contribution hall, where else?"
Listening to his words, Xianxia realized that today was already the 8th day of the month.
It was the day when the main gate distributed last month's contribution points. So every month on this day, the logistics department would be crowded with disciples flocking to collect their points. They could exchange these points for various cultivation pills, treasures, and martial arts to improve their strength. So this day made all disciples excited.
Some were excited, while others were disappointed. Xianxia was of the latter. Startled, he couldn't help but frown.
Each month, the number of points he received was relatively meager. Sweepers could earn 10 points, but in the last month, he was challenged 6 times, and each time he lost.
With reductions after each loss, he was only left with 4 points.
This really made people cry. Fortunately, he was only a trial disciple. His status was the lowest, so he would only lose 1 point if he lost. Regular disciples lost 2. Thinking of this, Xianxia was thankful. But even a tiny mosquito has flesh. And with his savings, He will one day earn enough to exchange them for something worthwhile.
He thought there had been enough delay today as he continued to sweep. When he had finally finished the job, it was noon.
Time to go to the hall to collect his points.
After the morning's bustle, the hall was now deserted and quiet. Thankfully, he hadn't come in the morning, or the wait would have been too troublesome. Waltzing into the hall, you could clearly see an old man dozing away.
This old man was the treasurer of the school.
He was about 50, with thin white hair and a kind face. Looking at him, he looked harmless to animals and humans, but Yang Kai knew he was a sly fox. Once, an elite disciple dared to act arrogant here and was pushed out of the hall a few 100 feet.
His life was almost taken.
Yang Kai was present, so he knew this old man held unfathomable strength. Stepping into the old man's view, Yang Kai could clearly see the old man snoring away.
This old thing! Who knows which female sky tower disciple he is dreaming about again?
Holding a broom, he gently nudged the old man, softly calling,
"Treasurer Meng!" The old man's surname was Meng, but his first name was Yang Kai didn't know, so he couldn't call him that.
He tapped the counter several times, and the old man was finally awoken. He groggily opened up his eyes and saw that it was Yang Kai, wrinkling his face as if he saw shit.
"What's with that face?"
Yang Kai asked indignantly, rolling his eyes. "Why didn't you come in the morning?"
Confidently, he replied, "There were too many people in the morning, and currently it's peaceful,"
interrupting this old man's rest.
"Do you know what respecting the elderly means?"
Leaning in, Yang Kai whispered,
"Which young lady did you dream of?"
Suddenly full of energy, Treasurer Meng replied to Yang Kai with eyes full of contempt and loudly proclaimed,
"Your words just now tarnished this old man's reputation. Too outrageous. Good body figure. Great."
Treasurer Meng unconsciously leaked out,
"Supple legs, white skin, and a beautiful thin waist.
N. He nodded his head, immediately thinking of Yang Kai as a friend.
Hey, Yang Kai sneered.
Treasurer Meng stammered and blushed as bright as a monkey's ass. Full of shame, he just wanted to dig a hole and crawl inside to hide.